Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us in that. And are we on? All right, cool. So Danny and I got back exactly 1 month and 1 day ago now, which is hard to believe. And it has been an adventure. It has been an interesting experience, to say the least. And I'm going to share some of that with you. But first and foremost, I do want you to know that we did not go independently. We did not go on our own. We went with As We Go missions. And the entire trip, the entire process, the entire experience was guided by and led by Bruce and Sherry Thacker. And I did want to put up here, this is a QR code to get you to their website if you want to learn more about As We Go missions. They are in Shelton this morning, and they are getting sent off by Shelton Christian Church because they leave this week for the Ukraine. And they will be spending some time in the Ukraine, a little bit of a roundabout way to get there. They got to go through Amsterdam and then Warsaw, Poland, and take a train into Kiev. But they'll be in Kiev at a Christian college there. And this is their first time going, and the whole goal is to establish relationships on the ground with existing pastors and ministries. And that is really what they do most, is partner with existing ministries to strengthen, encourage, and equip at another deeper level. So having said that, what Danny and I went and experienced is a lot different than what Bruce and Sherry normally do. We had part of that in there, and we will continue as we talk through this to show you that we definitely had a 4-day stint at the Rashanga Roomway Clinic that took up the massive end of the trip. But we did spend about 6 or 7 days in the Tredsey area getting to know people and building relationships of our own and learning about the relationships that they already have on the ground. But if you want to know more about As We Go, and we'll talk a little bit more about As We Go a little bit later. So what did we do? I'm going to run down this really quick, and then we'll go through each thing more in detail. But we had 3 days of travel there. So flights, then we had a driving day from Harare down to Tredsey. We spent a little bit of time exploring Tredsey. I preached in Sunday service with a translator at the Village Church, which meets at the orphanage, while Bruce was preaching at Tredsey Christian Church that Sunday. We did a painting prep and a painting day. We did a painting project at the Tredsey Christian Church. We were building relationships with church members and staff in Tredsey, both the Hippo Valley Mission staff and the Tredsey Christian Church staff. So when I mentioned Kudzi, he's the youth pastor of Tredsey Christian Church. We had 1 day that was a game park visit. We had to have a little bit of fun. So we had 1 day that was a game park visit. I got some pictures of that. And then we spent 4 days up at Rashanga Roomway. And the first day was traveling up there, doing a little bit of finishing work at the clinic. The second day was the dedication and a soft open of the clinic. The third day on Saturday was a vacation Bible school. We did games, we did crafts, we did lessons. Sherry was actually supposed to be with us on that, and she ended up getting asked at the last minute to teach the women. So she actually went and did a mini women's conference on the same day, impromptu. That stuff happens all the time when you're in this sort of situation, and it was great. We had Sunday service where there were testimonies.
Have you switched to the hand mic?
Are you? How does that sound? Better? All right. So then we traveled back to Tredsey and then back up to Harare and then the flights home. So this was all in the time span of about 14, 15 days. It was a busy trip. So the air travel, we went from Seattle to Chicago, and our first flight ended up being very eventful because there were extreme thunderstorms that shut down Chicago O'Hare Airport in the middle of the night. And we were in the air when that happened. And so they rerouted us to Minneapolis because we were running out of fuel and had to get more fuel. And then we ended up getting to Chicago about 2 hours later, which ended up working out because we had a 10.5-hour layover planned in Chicago, and we were fine with only having a 6.5-hour layover in Chicago by the time we got there. We then were on our long flight, which was Chicago to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. That was just under 14 hours long. And then we had Addis to Harare, which was 4 hours long. I had a bit of a medical emergency on the flight from Chicago to Addis at the end of the flight. I'm a diabetic, and eating high-carb meals on flights and having very little water intake and not sleeping for almost 2 days is a really bad combination. And I had some pretty severe chest pains that happened, and I was having trouble breathing for a little bit on the descent into Addis Ababa. And then again, in our first night in Harare, I had some of that experience. So a little bit of a scary thing that happened. We ended up realizing it was extreme dehydration and lack of sleep. So I had to plan a little bit better for the trip home, and I did, and it worked out okay. But it was a very eventful 48 hours, very high stress 48 hours, making sure everything was getting checked properly and all the flights. But it ended up working out well. Customs was extremely easy. They waved us right on through, no questions, nothing. Put your bags through the scanner and have a nice day. So it ended up working out really easy in Harare. The plane that you see there on the bottom was our last flight, and it was the biggest plane we were on. That's a 777. The one up top is a 787. That was our long flight, 14 hours on that flight. And then that's a picture of the Harare airport, which I had to grab really quickly because you're not allowed to take any pictures in Zimbabwe of any policemen or any government officials, and technically not of any government buildings either. So this was a quick snap that Danny got before we had to move out. So this was the team we were working with in two separate pictures. So we have Bruce and Sherry Thacker, who led it. We also had Bill and Julia, who were from West Virginia, and they were our chauffeurs. They helped cart us around because we had a big enough group that we needed 2 vehicles to get from everywhere we were going. And so they are the wonderfully bearded man in the back and his wife in the red right next to her. This is also Donna Burris, who is a big part of As We Go Missions, has been a big part of Zimbabwe, grew up in Zimbabwe, very deeply connected. And then we had Layla in the pink, who is 16 years old. This was her very first air travel ever. She's from Shelton Christian Church, Shelton Mission Alliance Church, and Nate Sartori, who is the current youth pastor there, and his father is the senior pastor at the Mission Alliance Church in Shelton. So the 4 of us had all of our flights together, there and back. We were the team together, and then we met up with the rest of them there. The one we didn't anticipate having as a part of our team was Addie, who is Donna's great niece. And Addie had spent a month in Zimbabwe taking a semester off from college, and she had a couple other European trip plans built into the semester that she was leaving for right after this. But she met us on Friday when we got in, or Thursday when we got in, and by Friday morning she said, "I really like that group of people. Could I maybe go with them to Cherezi? Could I maybe hang out with them while they're here?" And her great niece and or her great aunt and Bruce and Sherry talked about it. We had room in the vehicle, and they said sure. So Addie came with us and was the 5th member of our team that we didn't actually know we needed, but she was amazing, and an amazing young woman of God who just was a kick to have along for the ride. And then in the bottom picture, you have Kudzi, who's watching right now. Hi, Kudzi. And that's the youth pastor at Cherezi Christian Church, and a very good friend and a wonderful spirit. He is just an amazing man, young man of God, and excited to tell you more about him. That's the team. So then we had road travel. We had a chapel service at the college. We stayed at the Central African Christian College in Harare, and then we were able to go to the chapel service that morning. Nathan gave a testimony and a brief sermon in chapel. And what they do in Zimbabwe in chapel is they're all Bible college students. So they evaluate each other at the end of each chapel service, and then the president of the college evaluates them. And how did you do? You know, it's not necessarily a grade so much as it is a, you know, what can we do a little bit better? What worked? They didn't do that to Nathan, but the president really expressed his great just appreciation for us being there, and it was a really good time. And then we started south for the 6 to 7 hour drive to Cherezi, and these are some of the photos along the way. You just see, you know, people with their herds and people walking along the side of the road with baskets and things on top of their head, going where they need to go. The only map I have, and I can't use the pointer, unfortunately, but Harare is the big one in the middle. Cherezi is right down here. So it's a bit of a drive on paved roads, but back roads. And when I say paved, they're paved most of the time. Some of the time they're not paved, and it's a lot of fun. The things we knew were going to be affected on the trip were our emotions, our physical stamina. What we had no idea was going to be affected was the state of our rumps, and that was that was an adventure in and of itself. All the different vehicles, all the different roads, but it was a lot of fun. When we were in Cheretsey, we stayed with a woman named Mo Davies, who is very, very amazing, actually. Her husband passed away a few years ago. Her husband was one of the doctors who was deeply involved with Donna's father in the mission at Dine and then at other missions. And so they've been connected with the mission for a very long time. That was their work that they did. And she owns a beautiful home in Cheretsey, and her entire mentality is, I'm one person, I don't need all this space, but I know that there are people coming and going constantly for the mission. Anybody who needs to stay here can stay here. And she gives up and feeds us and does all sorts of wonderful things, and her housekeepers do laundry and all sorts of just amazing things, and it's just a service house. That's what they do. And she was amazing, just a kick to be with. British, Zimbabwean, she has dual citizenship, and just a wonderful woman to be with, and just lots and lots of things that we experienced with her. The Cheretsey Christian Church is the home church of Bruce and Sherry, and that's top right picture right there. So we spent a little bit of time there. Nathan and Layla went to church there on Sunday, and they just had a great time there. We also painted there, so we'll get to that here in a bit. But we did a couple of things in the first couple of days. We visited the market. We got to see what it's like in Cheretsey, what life is like. So this is a woman who was at the market who was breaking open this particular fruit. It's called the baobab, and it's a very big tree. And actually, in the game park, these big trunked trees they have to protect because the elephants will come and knock them down. And this is the fruit of that tree. They turn it into like a tartar paste kind of thing, and they mix it in and make a sweet drink out of it. But just getting to see things like that. We visited the village orphanage where Simon and Runga live and their kids. I'm going to talk more about them when I give a little bit of an encouragement at the end here. But these are some of their kids and Addie, and we had dinner there and sang together. That was the first time we sang How Great Thou Art. It's just an amazing time. Later in the week, we had a traditional Zimbabwean dinner at Mabel's house. She's a member of Cheretsey Christian Church, and that was a really awesome time. The dinner was a little bit hard at times to take because it was a traditional Zimbabwean dinner, and beef is not one cut of the beef. Beef is everything that exists on the animal cooked together. So you didn't really know what you were getting all the time, and but it was delicious and lots of fun. Sorry about that, koozie. We played Scrabble. And let me tell you something. I have never been involved in a more intense game of Scrabble in my life. Mabel was on my team. We split into 4 teams, and Mabel was on my team. And this wonderful mother of, I think, 3, but 2 of them were there. And she and Bruce were intensely competitive with each other. And I got brought into that because, those of you who know me know I'm not competitive at all. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was just a great time. And the next morning, when we went to the game park, I talked with one of the Hippo Valley mission leaders, Sam, who was going with us, and I said it felt like we had been friends for years. We felt like this was family, and it just was an amazing experience to connect across cultural lines and have fun together and share a meal together. And so much of that is part of the family of God. And it was just a great experience. We did also visit the Hippo Valley Christian Mission, and their headquarters are in Cheretsey, and so we had devotional there and met the staff, and it was great. And there was another team that was there with us as well at the same time from Illinois. So then Sunday morning at the village church, they meet at the orphanage in a big building on the property there, and it was preaching through translation. This is Alon. He's one of the members of the Hippo Valley Christian Mission staff, and he translated for me. He's an excellent translator, and it was just a lot of fun. But it was a 3-hour service. So just to give you a sense of what that service looks like, you have official praise and worship, about 4 or 5 songs. You have announcements. Then there's a communion and giving reflection, not unlike here. Then we have a testimony time. And testimony time means many different things. Testimony time means testimonies, if someone has a testimony. It means prepared musical or dance offerings. It means children and youth sharing memory verses. And basically, if you look at the letter to the Corinthians, the first letter to the Corinthians, it's how Paul describes the church at its best. Everyone with their gifts comes and brings their gift to the body and edifies the body. And it was something that was a really unique thing to experience. And Bruce told me that, yes, when visitors come, they kind of up the ante a little bit, so everybody wants to do their thing. So I will say it was amazing seeing the youth come up, seeing the men, seeing the women. The women know how to dance, let me tell you. The women were a tight unit. They sang in harmony. Everybody's feet were moving in the same way, and it was pretty cool. After all that, then you get up and give a sermon, and then a closing song. So basically 2.5 hours into it, they handed me the mic, and it's like, okay. And it was a very, very hot day. So I took my jacket off, and it was fun. Had just a great time. At the end, they have a response time, and if anybody has made any decisions with the Lord, they bring them forward, and there were 2 teenagers that were brought forward that day who had accepted Christ. I don't know if it was that service or if they had been thinking about it ahead of time, probably a little of both, but they were scheduled to be baptized the following Wednesday. So just an amazing experience to see that in action. So then we had painting, and painting was done upstairs at Cheredzee Christian Church. So upstairs is the whole white section up there. And we were on the inside, and it's this enormous hallway, triangle peak, and then 4 offices. And we had a big team that worked on it. And Kudzi was a part of that, Pastor Simon, some of the youth of the church. And then at lunch, we had a pizza lunch and lunchtime discussion on marriage and relationships that was just amazing. And Kudzi and one of the other 20-somethings had a lot of questions about what relationships look like, and how do you follow God? What do you look for with that? And it was just an amazing time to listen to Bruce and Sherry, to share some of what we've experienced in marriage, and just share life with people. And really, really amazing. We started really deeply connecting with Simon and Kudzi, over these couple days. And then on Wednesday, we went to Ganarajo National Park, and we had just a fantastic time. We left very early. We started the safari at about 8:30 a.m., and we did not get back until it was probably 6:30, and we didn't get back to Cheredzee until after 8. But in the safari vehicle, and there was one more row in front of that, but this park is known for 8,000 plus elephants. So we saw lots of herds of elephants. We saw lots of impala, the little orange ones down here. Kudu are a pretty amazing antelope-type animal. Lots of zebra, and I have to correct everybody in America, it's zebra, not zebra. So the really special thing that they try to do is they try to find the rhinos. Rhinos have been poached almost to the point of extinction in the area, and they have been reintroducing rhinos to the park. They set up a new more protected area for the rhinos. So they reintroduced about 5 years ago, they reintroduced the black rhino, and then in the last, I think 3 years, they reintroduced the white rhino. It's very hard to find them. This is not a tourist safari, put the animals real close together so you see interaction type of park. This is a wide open national park, free roam, free range, so you see what you see, and you look hard for what you're seeing. And the white rhinos, we found them, and it was amazing, a family of 3, and the guys, the safari drivers they were really happy. And Danny has a much better zoom than I do, so this was from about 400 yards away. and she was able to zoom in, and the high school student had a telephoto lens because she's a photography student, and she was able to get right up on them and get some great pictures. But pretty special day. That is the waterfalls, and you go and visit these as well towards the end of the tour, but beautiful wide open waterfall that we were able to see. All right, so then we went up to Rishonga-Rumwe, and Rishonga-Rumwe is awesome and fun and an adventure. Fun roads. You go for about an hour and a half up to a town called Gundu, and Gundu is a wonderful hub between different roadways. It's not a very big town. It's largely just a pit stop, couple gas stations, couple of places to get some food, but it's a big crossroads in that part of Zimbabwe. And so we go to Gundu, and then about 10 minutes north of Gundu, you turn off of the what they call the tar road, or the paved road, onto the muddy, entrenched, dangerous, some might say, dirt road to get out to the clinic at Rishonga-Rumwe, and that was about an hour and a half to 2 hours out to the clinic. You're only going 20 kilometers, but it takes you about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And Bill was driving in our vehicle, and Bruce was ahead of us. And you have to have a four-wheel vehicle. It's just not possible to do this without really good traction and a vehicle that can take it. Danny has a couple of videos of just bouncing around on the road. We arrived late in the afternoon on that. That was Thursday. And we had the experience of 2 dinners. Now, I have to explain dinners. Sadza is the staple food in Zimbabwe, and it is basically ground up white corn, not sweet corn, and then they basically boil it, cook it into like a grits that's a little bit thicker than grits, and you can grab it and grab a piece of meat and grab some of the juice and eat it. It's very, very filling, and especially for Americans, we can't eat as much as the Zimbabweans can. And so to have 2 dinners that were spaced only an hour and a half apart was almost impossible for our stomachs to digest. But that was our experience. We had a late lunch that they gave us, and then an hour and a half later they go and say, dinner's ready, and we're like, oh my. So that was a fun night. But it was good food. You know, you don't think about how your stomach is going to settle with things, but it's just a very different experience. After that, we did some clinic work. They had to do some window tinting and some curtains at the clinic itself. Friday was the dedication day, and Thursday and Friday were both very rainy. The rainy season held on very, very long this year. Not usually what happens. It's usually gone by the beginning of March, and things are drying out, but that was not the case. So it was a lot of hurry up and wait on Friday. The teams that were coming to experience the dedication had a really hard time getting up the road because it had been raining for 2 days straight, and the vehicles were really struggling. So it was about 2 hours delayed start time, and then it was a 3-hour long dedication. But we were able to get everybody up there who wanted to be up there. Some of the people actually who had come from like Dine or who had come from the other side of Terezi, they got up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and they traveled up 6-7 hour drive to get there. So it was a really special thing. And as we mentioned before, it was a soft open of the clinic that saw almost 300 patients on that one day and was able to establish relationships with people. They are now fully open for business. That just happened basically a week and a half ago that they opened for business. But it was just amazing to hear from so many people involved. I mean, literally hundreds of people. And the work of the Lord through thousands of people's hearts made this clinic happen. And it's a beautiful thing. The next day, we had a vacation Bible school, and about 50 kids in all showed up, and we had games and lessons and crafts. And this was a really good day for Danny. Danny made a lot of good connections this day. This little girl in front is Tashley, and she was the very first one to show up. And I have to tell you, they don't show up all at once. People trickle in, and that's because they go out to the bushes where you don't see where the huts are, and they yell out, "Hey, we're going to start." And then one person from the bushes there goes out to the next set of bushes and tells people, "Hey, we're going to start. Hey, we're going to start." So church events don't start at a particular time. They start when people show up. And so that's something that was an interesting thing to watch the kids trickle in, and we just played with them, played soccer, played ultimate frisbee, threw around balls for probably an hour and a half before we got started with everything, and kids just trickled in and trickled in and trickled in. And then once again, through translation, Nathan and I both gave a lesson each. We did some crafts with the kids, played some games, just a lot of fun. And Danny, like I said, made some really deep connections with the kids. And then the next day, we had church, and Pastor Mugabe, who is right on the right there, he translated for all of us. But he said, well, they've got to get home at a decent time, so we're going to start at 10 o'clock American time. So the church wasn't very full on Sunday morning, but that was okay. We had probably about 50 people there for church, and it was just a wonderful time. Bruce preached a sermon on healing, actually, and Naaman, and it was just a great time. Before we left, Pastor Mugabe and his family and much of the team that's up there, they prayed over us, and it was just a good time. On the drive back, which was dry this time, Bill's truck wasn't functioning very well, and so we started to get a little bit concerned because we had to make a really long drive the next day from Terezi back up to Harare. So that was a big concern, and what it ended up being was his truck was waterlogged. And after he had been out on the open road for half of an afternoon, it actually had the opportunity to drain out, and the next morning his vehicle was working properly. But we'll talk about how Bruce's wasn't working properly the next day here in a second. But I did want to mention that when we got back to Mo's, they had no obligation to do this, but Simon and Kudzi both came to visit us at Mo's because they didn't want us to leave without saying goodbye. And we spent some good time with them that night, prayed with them, and just had a wonderful time at our last night in Terezi. And we are, as I mentioned, we're still in communication with Pastor Simon and Kudzi on a regular basis. And, I mean, these are relationships that are going to last. They're wonderful brothers in the Lord, and it's an amazing experience to have that. So then we have our true attitude test day. Terezi to Harare was a very, very long day. It started by going into the mechanic in Terezi to figure out what was going on with the vehicles. And Bruce had experienced a little bit of something with his car, but he wasn't sure what it was. And I mentioned Bill's vehicle. Well, we ended up setting out on the road. Bruce was hearing some things. Things weren't functioning all that well. We got to eat at a place called In-N-Out Chicken. They totally stole the logo, but it's awesome. And it was actually really good. We stopped at Pemberton Station, which is about halfway between, and that's one of the Hippo Valley sites. And the staff there checked out his car. They're like, we're not really sure what's wrong. Seems to be running okay, but the tires seem to not be working all that well. So basically 7 hours into the trip, we get to the Harare paid checkpoint, which brings you into Harare Central, and it's still about 20 kilometers to the college from there. And I'm not kidding you, 20 feet past the checkpoint, Bruce's back right tire falls off and his brake casing falls off, and the lugs are gone. There were about 3 lugs on the ground next to the vehicle, but the Lord truly got us into the safe zone of Harare proper, where we could get help, where we wouldn't be out stuck on our own on the other side of the checkpoint, and then we had about a 4-hour delay. So after a very, very, very long drive, we had a very, very, very long wait. But it's amazing. He called the college. The college got in touch with the pastor who was closer than the college. The pastor got in touch with his mechanic from his church. They came out. They fixed it on the spot, not permanently, but jury-rigged it enough to get us to the college, and then we were able to go on and go to the college. It was a very long delay. It did test our attitudes a little bit at our fatigue, but it was just an amazing experience once again to see how the body of Christ is living and active everywhere. You just might not know it, you might not see it, but those connections are strong everywhere. So then we had the flights home. And this is just another God thing. So the former pastors of Terezi Christian Church moved a couple of years ago to Bulawayo to start ministry in Bulawayo.
and Simon took over at Tredsey Christian Church. Well, we sat next to their mom on the flight from Harare to Addis Ababa, and we don't think that was a coincidence at all. She grew up close friends with Mo, who we stayed with, and their children grew up together. And she was headed back to England. She was just visiting her family and visiting friends in Tredsey. But it was an amazing time of having a 4-hour conversation with someone we didn't know beforehand. And we're connected now and you know, talking to each other. But it's a very, very small world. I just have to let you know that. It's a very small world, and the hand of God is everywhere. And it's amazing. We did have some stress on the way home at Addis Airport. We had 2 extra security checkpoints, and actually Layla, our 16-year-old, got separated from us for a little bit in those checkpoints, and that was a little bit sketchy. From Addis to Rome, then to Chicago, it was a long but a good flight. We sat next to a woman named Nicole, who does children's malaria research in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And we heard amazing stories about how much is needed there and how much is just desperately in need there. And just an amazing conversation with her. At Chicago Airport, the customs was easy, but Alaska Airlines is the only domestic airline at Chicago O'Hare International inbound that doesn't have a rebag check station just past customs. So we had to carry our bags 2 terminals over on the train, which was not so fun, but it worked out. And then our last flight, we got home, and it was just an amazing time. So before I give you some encouragement, spiritually speaking, I do want to tell you that Danny is not up here with me. She's not too keen on the public speaking thing, but she is really keen on sharing what her experience has been in her own words. And she has a blog. There's a QR code for the blog if you want to get that, or you can go to the website, and it's at missiontrips2026.wordpress.com. She is going with every couple of days of the trip doing detailed blogs, and there's some more pictures on there as well. But it's a really special thing, and yeah, I'm just really happy to share that with you all. And if you are interested in supporting, we talked about it last week, As We Go Missions is still looking for about $200 of monthly support to keep Rashanga Roomway running on a monthly basis. It takes about $500 to run that clinic on a monthly basis. And they are still looking for about $200 worth of monthly commitment. So if you can be a part of that at all, on the As We Go site, you would go to donate, and then you would go to the clinic donation page, and there we go. This is what the clinic donation page looks like. And you can do a one-time or a monthly, or if you want to be involved in that at all, that's available to you. All right. So let me give you some encouragement from one of the most amazing stories I heard while I was there. This is Pastor Simon Mupa. He's the senior pastor of Tredsey Christian Church. He was raised in a broken home. His parents divorced when he was very young. He attended Central African Christian College in Harare and became credentialed as a pastor. His first placement as pastor was on the Mozambique border. He didn't know the languages in Mozambique. They speak Portuguese. They speak a tribal language. He didn't know those languages. He knew English and he knew Shona. So he had to set his Shona Bible next to a Portuguese Bible and next to a tribal language Bible in Mozambique and teach himself the other 2 languages so that he could connect with people in Mozambique. The fruit of that was that he was able to found 4 churches along the border in Mozambique and 1 on the Zimbabwe side. The most amazing thing about Simon is his humility, because he sits there, a very accomplished missionary in his own right, a very accomplished pastor, and he opened his heart to us and said, I want to learn from you. I want to know what the Lord's been doing in your life, and I want to know how we can be praying for you and support you. Unbelievable what the Lord has done through him. And I just want to share this with you. And then there's one more thing about his story I'm going to share in another point. But Philippians 4 says it best, and this is how Paul said it. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your gentle spirit be known to all men. The Lord is near. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at last you have revived your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned before, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak from want, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am in. I know how to get along with humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. That is Simon's life. He didn't look at the situation in Mozambique and go, I can't do that. That's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible for us. But he opened himself up to God, and God gave him insight and a path, and he has saved souls in Mozambique because he said, yes, Lord, show me. Show me how to do this. Show me what you want me to do. God can do anything through us. And I don't know that we always truly believe that in our bones, in our heart. He can do anything through us. Ephesians says it this way, now to him who is able to do far more abundantly beyond all that we ask or think, according to the power that works within us, to him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations forever and ever. Amen. It's Ephesians 3:20 through 21. I read this, actually, the Lord brought this to me, and last time I preached, I talked about bondslave, that word, and how many of Jesus' followers used that word to describe themselves. And then I found this passage in Luke and realized that there was someone who made that claim before any of the disciples made that claim. When Mary was approached by the angel, this is what happened. Mary said to the angel, how can this be since I am a virgin? The angel answered and said to her, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you, and for that reason the Holy Child shall be called the Son of God. And behold, even your relative Elizabeth has also conceived a son in her old age, and she who was called barren is now in her 6th month. For nothing will be impossible with God. And Mary's response to that, she said, behold, the bondslave of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word. And the angel departed from her. It's an amazing thing to see faith in action. And it's an amazing thing to see circumstances not hinder the Lord's work. But that doesn't happen unless we yield to him. That doesn't happen unless we say, I believe you, Lord. I trust you, and I will step out in faith because I know who you are, and I know how strong you are. It doesn't matter how strong I am. It doesn't matter what I can do or what I can't do, because you can do anything. You can do all things. That spirit is what has led Simon and Runga. And we mentioned this, Bruce mentioned this last week. He married Runga, and this was the first time his parents actually spoke to each other after their divorce. It was 20 years later. And so Simon doesn't have a good background to know what love is apart from the Lord. Simon doesn't have a good background to know what it means to be a loving father, except from the Lord. He and Runga became orphanage house parents with 3 children of their own, and they have 11 orphans, including an outcasted dwarf and a severely autistic girl. They're at the village orphanage. There's 4 houses at the village orphanage. They are the house parents for one of those houses. Right now, they're building a home, and they're going to adopt actually 10 out of the 11 kids. The autistic girl has a chance to go to a care facility that will help her transition from teenager to adulthood in a more safe and helpful environment. So they won't be adopting her, but they'll be adopting all of the other 10 kids. And they're doing this as soon as possible because they want to make room for more kids and another set of parents to come into the orphanage so they don't take up more space. It's an amazing thing. And that love doesn't come from their life experience or what they had growing up. It comes from their relationship with God. It comes from the fact that they realize that the Lord has set them apart to be a loving household regardless of what they've experienced. It's pretty amazing, honestly. So here's some of the verses. There's a lot, by the way. If you look through the Psalms, there's a lot. But God is a father of the fatherless and a judge for the widows. In his holy habitation, he makes a home for the lonely. That's Psalm 68. The Lord protects the strangers. He supports the fatherless and the widow. Psalm 146:9. Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. That's in James. And I don't say that to guilt anybody into getting into orphan care. I say that to say that this is the character of God. This is who God is. This is what he does. He finds those who are the neediest, and he says, I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to help them. Like Mark was talking about earlier, we're to come alongside people, to know what they need, to love them enough, to care about what they need, and give them what they need if we can. That's what it means to love as God loves us. So I just have a challenge for you today. Will you believe in the God of Mary, Paul, and Simon? Will you have that faith? Do you believe he can and will do anything through you if you will yield to him? Are you a bondslave of the Lord? Opportunity is all around us. You don't have to go to Zimbabwe to see people in need. Just lift up your eyes when you're driving around. See the coworker who doesn't talk a lot, seems to be quiet or maybe hurting all the time or always frustrated. Find the people around you who are hurting. Come alongside them. What's holding you back? What fears do you have? And are you willing to trust God instead of what you see? Are you willing to go beyond what you can comprehend and trust the Lord who gives beyond anybody's comprehension? That's what I got for you today. I hope that this has been encouraging. We had an amazing time, an amazing trip, and we are already talking about going back because we've made very deep connections and we love where we were at, and the Lord is at work. I think that's the last thing I want you to know is we didn't step into a situation where God was not working. We stepped into a situation where thousands of lives have already been touched by the love of the Lord in Zimbabwe. And we were partners in ministry, and we learned as much, if not more, from them as they learned from us. And it is a beautiful, beautiful experience that we will cherish for a long time. But I just encourage you today, find where the Lord is at work and join him. You don't have to be the creator of opportunities. He's already done that. Just see where he's at and join him. Shall we pray? Father God, you can do all things, Lord. You can do anything. And Lord, I just want to thank you for what you have shown Danny and I, what you were able to do through just a few of us being willing to say yes, Lord, to you. Lord, I pray that others would see their yes, Lord moment, that there would be hearts and minds turned toward you today, Lord. Lord, I pray that we would understand the effect that we can have by simply following you and saying yes to you. Lord, I pray that strongholds would break, that anything that would block someone from following you with a whole heart and trusting in your ability to get them through whatever it is they may face, Lord, I pray that you would just demolish things that stand in our way, that we would see you as bigger than all of that, because you are, God. You are high above all of that. And Lord, you don't just love Zimbabwe. You don't just love the United States of America. Lord, you love every person, every soul, and you're not willing that any should perish. I pray that we would take on that love that you have, Lord, that we would see our neighbors, our coworkers, the people around us, Lord, as souls in need of a relationship with their God. Lord, I just thank you for what you've given Danny and I the opportunity to do, and I just pray that others